Rachel Carson was a marine biologist and a naturalist. She was born May 27, 1907 in Springdale, Pennsylvania. She lived on her family's 65-acre farm. Since exploring the nearby forests and hills, she had developed a passion for nature and writing, which led to her having her first publication at age 10 in a children's magazine. Her collegiate journey began in 1925 at the Pennsylvania College for Women. Her major was English. However, she took a summer fellowship at the U.S. Marine Laboratory in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. Her first experience with the marine world gave her a change of heart, so she decided to switch her major to biology. Rachel Carson graduated in 1929 with her bachelor's, but she received a scholarship to continue to graduate school for her biology at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. She then also studied at the Oceanographic Institute at Woods Hole. Women in academia, let alone the STEM field, was rare and competitive, so for her to receive a scholarship and to go to a prestigious school for her master's held importance for women to be motivated and inspired. By 1932, Rachel Carson received her master's degree in zoology. Although she could not continue her academics to a PhD due to family strains by having to help raise her nieces and care for her mother, by 1936 she was employed to the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries as a junior aquatic biologist. She was the second woman to work there. She wrote material for the public, then was promoted to editor-in-chief for all publications for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. She worked here for about 15 years. But during that time, in 1935, she was asked to create and write segments on the radio about marine life. This was called Romance Under the Seas, while also continuing to write magazines and newspapers demanding the need for regulation and consideration for the aftermath of destruction, to hopefully have a better welfare for fish along with the fishermen. During her time working at the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries, she worked around the Chesapeake Bay and spoke to watermen, which are fishermen in today's world. She also would tour commercial plants and conservation facilities in order to gain an understanding of both the economics and the cultures of the area. Since the majority of coastal cities rely on their local marine ecosystems to provide fresh seafood for locals and tourists of the area, jobs for the fishermen, and sea life conservation management. While in the World War II, Rachel Carson was a part of the research program that investigated underwater sounds, the life underwater, and the underwater terrain to provide aid in development of new techniques and equipment used for the U.S. Navy submarines. In 1941, she published her book, Under the Sea Wind, which was poetically written about the marine ecosystems and relationships shared between the marine birds and marine species. Then by 1951, her book, The Sea Around Us, was published and became a New York Times bestseller for 81 weeks. Shortly after this, she resigned from the U.S. Fisheries to focus more on her writings. In 1957, she published The Edge of the Sea, which mostly discussed the ecology of high and low tides close to the shorelines. This was her last book until she adopted her son, Robert Christie, and moved to Silver Spring, Maryland, to care for her aging mother.
Soon after, Carson received a letter from her friend in Duxbury, Massachusetts, discussing the decline in the local bird population after pesticides were being sprayed in the area. These pesticides were DDT. This sparked her to write Silent Spring, which was published in 1962. This book discusses the harm that pesticides can cause to wildlife and people as well. Abnormalities or death in fish and other indicator species will always show up first, which is why she conducted studies with aquatic species to show how DDT affected marine and terrestrial ecosystems. Carson accused the chemical industry of being misleading and for spreading misinformation because agriculture communities viewed pesticides as the best way to have the most profitable crops. Without knowing the dangers of DDT, one of the main dangers was DDT causing cancer in humans and reproductive issues in wildlife, thus declining rates in all populations. Of course, being a woman going against big companies in the chemical and agricultural world would light a fire. These companies tried to discredit her by saying she was a communist and just a woman who is hysterical. Even after providing evidence of the harms DDT can cause, they still chose to belittle her efforts because money matters more and the health of people and our ecosystems. Besides, who would believe a woman anyways? So of course, after President John F. Kennedy's advisory committee supported and validated Carson's research, this began to show the public just how horrifying and dangerous these pesticides are. Soon after this, Rachel Carson received her Audubon Medal from the Audubon Society, the Cullum Geographical Medal from the American Geographical Society. Later, Rachel Carson was in a televised interview where she stated, "A man's endeavors to control nature by his powers to alter and destroy would inevitably evolve into a war against himself, a war he would lose unless he came to terms with nature." On April 14, 1964, just 2 years after the publication of Silent Spring, Rachel Carson had tragically passed away due to breast cancer, even after radiation and mastectomy. In 1972, DDT was officially banned in the U.S. thanks to the help of Rachel's work and her resilience to not be discouraged or silenced. With time, Rachel Carson had a significant impact by being an inspiration for women in the STEM field.
People often seem to be surprised that a woman should have written a book about the sea. This is particularly true, I find, of men. Perhaps they have been accustomed for a long time to thinking about the more exciting fields of science as exclusively masculine domains. In fact, one of my correspondents a few days ago addressed me as "Dear Sir," explaining that although he knew perfectly well that I was a woman, he simply could not bring himself to acknowledge the fact.